Welcome to the Well Woman Show, where we interview women executives, leaders, and entrepreneurs.
And you're listening to the Well Woman Show,
where motivated women achieve fulfillment and well-being.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
Take time for myself by coming to things like Well Woman Drinks.
To be accepting of myself no matter what. Step away from judgment as much as possible.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
You're going to be in for a good ride. I don't regret anything. Everything I've ever done, I've learned from it, one way or another, good or bad.
Being a little bit selfish for yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first and then give what's left.
I'm a woman. I would prefer to tell my own story. My story, though it's very personal, is universal.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show. And now your host, Giovanna Rossi.
Hi, Giovanna Rossi here, and welcome to another episode of the Well Woman Show, where I interview women leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs about their lives and their road to becoming and being who they are today. Are you feeling burned out or finding it hard to focus on your goals? Or are you in transition? Well, you're not alone. We all need to activate our superpowers. These are the internal strengths and abilities we all already have but don't use all the time. Superpowers can be cultivated, and they include empathy, love, intuition, courage, and more. As always, this episode is brought to you by Well Woman Life, a global community of women living our best lives. Whether it's your health, relationships, your money, or making an impact in your community and the world, Well Woman Life has you covered. You've made a commitment to not settle, to use your voice, and to live your best life. Well Woman Life offers annual memberships, workshops, and retreats to support you. Check out wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join our growing community. Now back to the show. I'm speaking with Helen Dorado de Maestas, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. So, as people heard in the introduction, we're celebrating our 100th episode of the podcast by talking to listeners of the show and also members of the Well Woman community. And Helen is both. And she is also the owner of Zen Mama Running and Zen Mama Runner. And she's a yoga instructor and does all kinds of things. She also just recently took a very exciting new opportunity, and she's the deputy director of constituent services for the new mayor of Albuquerque. And so that's super exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Helen, I want to ask you just to reflect a little bit with me on what is a well woman to you? What does that mean for you?
I think that a well woman is somebody who remembers to take care of herself, as well as, trying to fulfill all of these other roles that we play in life. Because I think it's so easy for ourselves to kind of get lost in taking care of everybody else. So just remembering to nurture ourselves, to do things that we love and that kind of feed our souls. So, yeah.
Definitely. And when we don't do that, we tend to lose ourselves, and we develop, health problems or depression or different things. So
or anger issues.
Or what? Yeah.
Anger issues.
Resentment.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the things that we focus on a lot in the Well Woman community is supporting women to really not just say, I need to take care of myself, but really have the tools to do it and to prioritize it. Right.
Right.
And so what's your experience been with listening to the Well Woman Show as far as like supporting that for you?
Well, I started listening maybe a year and a half ago, and really listening to one of your interviews. I think it was with Kate Erickson, one of your guests, and her story just really resonated with me. And I was kind of at a time in my life and in my career where I was thinking about making a change. And so really after listening to that interview, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm leaving my job and I'm going to take time to really indulge in and follow this passion, this idea that I had for teaching yoga and leading hikes and walks and trying to get other people to be healthy. And so that's what I did. And so I spent the last year really doing that, and then continuing to listen to the podcasts and just taking courage and encouragement from your guests and to keep me going, because as you know, heading into entrepreneurship and small business ownership can be lonely and challenging and scary. And so it was great to just say, God, I really need some encouragement today. And I can listen to any one of these podcasts and, get some support and some ideas, and remember that I'm not alone and other people struggle, but they find their way. So, yeah.
And so after you listened to that episode and you made that decision to make a shift, is that when you enrolled in a yoga teacher training course, or had you already done that?
I had already done that the year prior. And so, I'd kind of just been sitting on it, thinking about where do I want to go with this and what do I want to do with it? And I had been I'm also a runner. And so that was one of the things that led to my pursuing a yoga teacher training, was to help other runners, because we tend to just want to run and not stretch, and then kind of fall into a cycle of injury. And so, it was how can I do this? How can I take this yoga practice and now this teacher training and help other people like me? I mean, in my head, it was other runners. And so, it kind of helped me launch, in my own head.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then fast forward, now you've been running your business for a while, and you were presented with this opportunity to go work for this exciting new administration.
Right.
And so, but that's a big decision to then shift gears again.
Right.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, I had left my job, maybe had made the decision just before the last election, the last presidential election, to do this. And after the election, I was kind of oh, wow, I'm kind of leaving my job, which had been a policy job, working for a county commissioner, doing really great, exciting work. And so while I was doing my yoga and hiking and running this past year, I'd also been thinking, I miss the policy work and the opportunity to do that kind of, big impact on people's life through policy. And, so kind of feeling torn about having left a position where I could make that kind of difference, given the current political climate. So when this opportunity came up now, it was well, here's that chance again, to make a difference in people's lives and to be a part of a really exciting administration and big change for our city. It was also a big change for our family because I haven't worked a full-time job in 10 years. So I've been able to stay home a lot, and my previous jobs were part-time, and so I had a lot of flexibility. But just personally, I felt like it was time. It was time to really commit myself to something, and I thought that this was a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and how are you making sure what are you putting in place in your life to make sure that you can maintain your own well-being while taking on this enormously big job?
So I plan to continue my yoga teaching. One thing that I've kind of started to do, and in fact plan to, make a bigger commitment to it this week, is inviting other people to walk with me downtown. During my lunch break. So I kind of reach out to friends and say, hey, let's plan to walk, on Monday for an hour. And so for me, if I invite somebody else to do something with me, I'm more likely to stick to it.
There's accountability there. Yeah,
exactly. And even if they don't show up,
yeah, you're already ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I love that. I do that with walking meetings. I have, I keep a certain amount of time in the mornings, like 4 mornings a week for walk with me meetings.
Right.
And so
that's great. I love it.
Yeah. If people, and it doesn't work for every kind of meeting, but if people want to meet and work on something, I just have them sign up for a walk with me slot, and then they come along and we walk around the park and we talk. And you actually do a lot of great thinking when you're moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And another thing that I did it last year, and I've just signed up again and have a few girlfriends who've signed up to do it with me, is this challenge where you commit to walking. This year, it'll be 2,018 miles. And so we, as a team, commit to doing that and kind of divvy it up. So, each of us walks something like 700 miles a year. And so they send you the medal right away. And so I hang mine up so that I can see it every day and remember that I've made that commitment, and, have to get out and walk at least a mile or two every day in order to make that mileage by the end of the year.
Oh, that's so cool. What's the program called?
It's called, what is it called? I'll have to look it up. It's
okay.
I'll let you know.
Send it to me. We'll put it in the show notes for the show.
Yeah. It's a great thing.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Okay. What about meal planning and like family, family meals? Because you have a daughter, you have a husband.
Yep, I do. And we love to eat. So, it gets challenging, but I do try to make, 1 or 2 things over the weekend that we can enjoy throughout the week. And I just got an Instant Pot. And so I'm really loving that for making,
Me too.
Like a roast or soups or, beans or whatever that we can just quickly turn to throughout the week and not have to eat out every night.
Yeah. Yeah. I love my Instant Pot. This is definitely not an endorsement or like a sales thing for Instant Pot.
No.
It has been so incredibly helpful for me and my family because it's just so incredibly easy and fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. And, so I turn to Pinterest or other friends for recipe ideas and stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about favorite Instant Pot recipes just for a second. I'll give you a second to think about yours. Mine right now is I just made bone broth with I get an organic chicken because I like to eat organic. And then roast the chicken, have that one night. And then the next day, put the whole leftover bones and everything in the Instant Pot with some carrots and onions and spices. And then it literally takes 2 hours in the Instant Pot to make the bone broth, whereas it would take, hours and hours all day, 2 days to cook it in a regular on the stove.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can use the broth for making your soups and whatever you want, putting it, I try to put it in my kids' food so that they get some nutrition.
Right. Great.
So that's what I'm loving. What about you?
So we love carnitas. So it's like a pulled pork dish. And so normally in the slow cooker, right, it would be like an all day job, like 8 hours, which is great because you can walk away and leave it alone, right? But sometimes you just feel like some carnitas and you don't have 8 hours to wait. And so I found a recipe, you just season it how you would normally and put it in the Instant Pot. And 45 minutes later, it is super tender and juicy. You pop it in, shred it, and put it in under the broiler in your oven for 5 minutes, and it's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Lots of good tips here. This is turning out to be the episode in which we talk about tools for going back to work.
Yeah.
When you haven't been at a job, you've been doing your own thing, independent, lots of flexibility, and now you're going to a job with pretty rigid hours, right? I mean, you have to be there.
Yes. Right.
You're like, you're in charge of a lot of different things with constituent services, boards and commissions, all this stuff. Yep. And so the transition of that and what kinds of things you can put in place to make sure you take care of yourself and your family the way you want to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, another thing that we had to think about was my husband travels a lot. And my daughter is in dance class and violin class after school. And so, just as soon as this opportunity popped up and I was thinking about, I really want to do it, but, we have all these other things going on in our lives. So I immediately reached out to several girlfriends whose kids also dance with mine and, whose families go to our school and said, I want to do this. And can I call on you to help me when I need it? And, everybody was really excited and very supportive and said, absolutely. So, I have my backup plan so that if my husband's not here and I can't get to it, I can call somebody.
Yeah.
So
that's so important to know when to ask for help and then to ask for that support. And most people are really willing to help out. And I also think that we tend not to do that as much in this culture to rely on other people. We think we have to do it all ourselves. And we, as women, we definitely find it difficult to delegate some of those nurture tasks. Like, we think, oh no, I have to be the one to take my daughter to dance, or I have to be the one to cook all the meals. No, you don't. Your daughter's going to be fine. She's actually going to have fun going to dance class now and again with a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And just letting some of that go, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Helen, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk to you. If you are interested, we'll do one of our live consulting sessions here, and I'll walk you through what that is. Basically, I want you to think about a challenge that you currently have, and I'll just give you a little bit of background for listeners. With the Well Woman Life Framework, we think of our lives in 3 domains. So there's the personal, the professional, and the public domain. So personal is your family, your health, your relationships, and professional is your career and your education, your business, and public is your service, your community work, your volunteer boards, maybe you're running for office, that kind of stuff. So I want you to think about a challenge that you currently face, like your greatest challenge right now in one of those domains. And you can share as much or as little about that actual challenge as you want. You don't have to, but you can if you want. And then I'll ask you a couple of questions.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it straddles the personal, professional, right? I mean, just like we were talking, I've made this huge change. And so I think that one of the things that I carry with me and struggle with is maybe the guilt, right? Like this idea of, oh, I can't be there always, or, you've always had me available to you. And now for my daughter, I'm speaking, or I guess for my family, right? Like, and maybe I can't be there as much as I used to. And I know you're going to be fine. But we still kind of carry that guilt, I think, as mothers and caregivers, about missing something.
Yes.
Okay.
So, great. That's a good one. That's a big one. And that's one that a lot of people struggle with. So let me ask you this. Thinking about your own internal superpowers, and those can be lots of different things, but for this particular exercise, think of superpowers as being self-love, self-care, and self-acceptance. And so thinking about your own superpowers in that way, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your current experience of those superpowers as they relate to this particular challenge? So you can think of it in terms of your self-love, your self-care, or your self-acceptance.
Well, I mean, I think maybe in accepting it, right? It's like accepting that I can be more than I have been, I guess. Like we have greater capacity. And I probably haven't been maximizing my own capacity. And so, what I'm doing is making me grow, which is great. And I'm excited about that. So, I feel like I have to give myself that space, to do that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being really low, 10 being really high, what would you rate your current experience of your own superpowers related to this challenge?
I don't know, maybe a 6.
Okay. And I would guess that it is a challenge, that it might be a little lower than that if you're having this guilt feeling, because that usually happens if we're not fully there with the self-love and the self-acceptance. But that could be something that you think about. So anyway, do you want to say 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So then switching gears to this idea that we have external supports in our lives related to any challenge that we might have. There are external supports like your family, your husband, your work, your new work schedule, the community, all of the friends and all of these things. External supports can also include policies and systems. I mean, it's sort of everything external outside of you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being very high, what's your current experience of those external supports related to this challenge?
That's really interesting because I think in my head, right, when I think about them, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Right? In my head, it's probably like a 4 or a 3. But when I step outside of that and really look and really ask and communicate my needs, it's probably more like an 8.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point you just made. So before you take action, it's a 3 or a 4. But once you reflect on what you need to ask for, then it's more like an 8. So you've made that shift to actually correct that and really address that challenge just by working through it already.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting. So let's look at the way those two things interact. So the intersection of your superpowers and your supports. So if your superpowers are at a 6 and your let's look at both versions, and your supports are like a 3 or a 4, you would be in what we call the, looking at my key here, in the active stage, which is a time of great transition and a lot of big decisions being made. Again, just for everybody listening, this is when you have, like, she's at a number 6 in superpowers, but a 3 or a 4 in supports. And so that lands her in the stage, in the very active stage, which is a stage of transition. And so a lot of times we are here when we have a lot, we've done a lot of work on ourselves. We're doing pretty well with our self-care, but we have a lot of changes going on and a lot of decisions and a lot of new things happening and a lot of action that we're taking. And so what we say in this stage is that the superpower that you're trying to activate here is action, leaping, like taking the leap, right? And so you're obviously doing that. And so if we look at the other number that you gave, the 8, you would actually be in a different stage because your supports are much higher at an 8. You would be in the stage that we call receptive, which is the stage of flow and like things are really functioning pretty well. It's a stage of where there's a lot of love, like you're loving yourself, you're able to give other people love in not just in your family, but in your job and just everything.
Right.
And so it's very different to see how it shifted for you just by addressing some of those supports that you already have by asking for what you need, right?
Right.
So that was a big one. So any reflections on that?
I think it's taken time to be able to ask for help, and I still sometimes get stuck in that low, I have to do it all by myself, or I need to figure this out, or what am I going to do when this happens? And to then like go back and say, oh, but I can ask for help, and I can, people at my work are very supportive, and we all want to see one another succeed and do well and, be happy. And so they're going to support me. And I know that, so it's like trying to keep myself from falling back into this mode of, I need to do it all, and remembering that I do have support.
Yeah. Yeah. And asking for the help when you need it.
Yeah.
And not just from other people, but from your daughter, probably. She'll probably have to do a little bit more for herself and your husband and everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So considering you're now in the flow phase stage, which we call receptive. So you're able to give and receive, everything's flowing pretty well. The key in this stage is to maintain that.
Right.
Because the stage after that, guess what that is?
What?
Burnout. The stage after that is burnout. So what you want to do is not get into burnout, right?
Right.
And so maintaining your flow, which is your high level of superpowers and your high level of supports, is going to keep you in that flow state.
Right.
And as soon as we go a little lower on our superpowers, because that's what usually happens when we're in flow. We're like so excited. We're doing everything. Things are going really well. We've got a lot going on. We start forgetting to maintain. So we drop some of the meditation. We don't do our yoga as much. We're not eating as healthy because we're so busy. And that plummets us right into burnout. And we've all been there, definitely. So yeah, I would say some of the tools for you in your toolbox are definitely to really focus on and prioritize your self-care.
Yeah.
And your supports, keeping those, nurturing those relationships and making sure that you're doing, if you do a gratitude practice, I would say, well, if you don't, I would say definitely start one while you're in this stage. If you already have one, definitely keep it up.
Yeah.
Do you do a gratitude practice?
Not regularly. I mean, I do try to remember, right? And to every day just remind myself that I have a lot to be grateful for, and a lot of people to be thankful for in my life. So, but I mean, I don't write it down or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to, I would say maybe write 3 things down every day. Just jot them down. It doesn't have to take a long time, but it just keeps you in that state of gratitude so that
I love that.
Don't get into that burnout phase, because we don't want you to burn out, Helen.
Yeah. I'm only just getting started, Giovanna.
So there's a lot of positive, you're in a great stage, and there's a lot of positive stuff going on for you. And it's about really keeping that up.
Right.
Cool. Is your family listening to this?
Yeah.
Hi, family. So, well, great. So any last reflections or questions about the exercise we just did?
No, I think it's great to, kind of take a step back and think about where I'm at right now, which is, exciting and also kind of unexpected and a big leap. So it is a big time of change and transition for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. Okay. And for listeners, you can download the framework that we just talked about, the actual picture of the wheel, so you can see what stage you're in. Okay. And you can download that either if you're looking at the video, it's under the video, or if you're on the podcast, it's in the show notes. So definitely check that out. And Helen, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today and having you on the show.
Thank you. It's been great. And I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on 100 episodes of The Well Woman Show.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thanks, Helen.
All right.
That's it for our show today. Remember, if you need support to live your Well Woman life, head over to wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join us. Our monthly live event, Well Woman Drinks, brings women together to share our successes and challenges as women, leaders, moms, aunts, sisters, and all the other roles we carry. If you'd like to attend a Well Woman Drinks near you, or if there isn't one in your city yet and you'd like to start one, email info@wellwomanlife.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and subscribe in iTunes and leave a review. This helps raise visibility, which is super helpful when it comes to producing the show every week. For feedback, comments, or just to let me know you were listening today, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @WellWomanLife. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.